In the mid-2000s, this sound was the anthem of the digital age. It was heard a billion times a day, from the slums of Mumbai to the boardrooms of Wall Street. The Nokia Corporation didn't just own the market, they created it. They controlled half of the planet's entire mobile industry. Their market cap exceeded 300 billion euros. They were more influential than today's Apple and Google combined. But in just 5 years, this colossus collapsed. An empire that seemed eternal was devalued and sold for the price of scrap metal. It is commonly believed that the killer of Nokia was Steve Jobs and his iPhone, but that is a convenient lie. Steve Jobs merely pulled the trigger. The deadly poison was injected into the company's organism by its own leaders long before the Apple presentation. This is the chronicle of the greatest corporate suicide in history. To realize the depth of the fall, one must recall the height of the flight. In the early 2000s, the Nokia brand possessed a status bordering on religious. Devices of this mark became synonymous with reliability. A phone that could withstand a drop from the 3rd floor, work for a week without charging, and allowed you to change its look with a single click of a panel. The sense of their own omnipotence played a cruel joke on the giant. The engineers from Espoo began to lose touch with reality. They released devices shaped like lipsticks, game consoles, and teardrop phones. The market absorbed everything. Inside the corporation, a dangerous culture of arrogance formed. Top management ignored analyst reports, relying on a single dogma: the user needs buttons. The consumer is not ready for a computer in their pocket. They built the perfect fortress, but every fortress has a vulnerability. When you look at the world from the height of a throne, you stop noticing how your foundation is being undermined. January 9, 2007, Steve Jobs walks onto a stage in San Francisco and demonstrates a device devoid of a physical keyboard. The tech world stood still, but in Nokia's headquarters, icy calm prevailed. The board of directors perceived this not as a threat, but as a niche experiment for wealthy geeks. The company's leading engineers acquired the new device from Apple and subjected it to thorough analysis. Their verdict was devastating and fatally wrong. Call quality is mediocre. The microphone is quiet. The device is fragile, and the battery doesn't withstand a day's use. They evaluated the iPhone by the standards of the old world. They saw it merely as a utilitarian tool for voice communication, and as a phone, it was indeed imperfect. But leadership failed to understand the major paradigm shift. Nokia sold hardware, durable plastic and microchips. Apple began selling software, convenience, emotions, and tactile experience. At that moment, hidden panic began inside the corporation. It turned out that their Symbian operating system was an architectural dead end. Clunky code from the 90s did not allow for rapid implementation of new features. They needed a complete reboot, but time was lost. Market share is shrinking rapidly. In a desperate attempt to save the situation, the board of directors makes a historic mistake. They fire the previous leadership and for the first time hire a foreigner. Meet Stephen Elop, an executive from Microsoft, a man whose name in Finland is still pronounced with undisguised hostility. Elop began his tenure with the legendary internal memo, The Burning Platform. He compared the company to a worker on a burning oil rig in the middle of an icy sea. The choice is stark: burn alive or jump into the unknown. We are standing on a burning platform, he declared, and we must jump. Elop makes a unilateral decision to refuse the transition to Android, which all competitors, Samsung, HTC, Motorola, had chosen. Instead, he concludes an exclusive alliance with Microsoft. This decision became an act of strategic suicide. First, by announcing that the current Symbian platform was dead while Windows Phone was not ready, he effectively told buyers, Our current phones are garbage, and the new ones aren't here yet. Sales stalled instantly. In business, this phenomenon is called the Osborne effect. Ellip devalued the company's products with his own hands. By 2013, the treasury was empty. A company worth hundreds of billions was acquired by Microsoft for a humiliating 5.4 billion euros. Stephen Ellip received a bonus of 18.8 million euros for executing the deal and returned to a high position at Microsoft. Was this planned sabotage to lower the asset's value before purchase, or an example of egregious incompetence? History gives no ambiguous answer, but the facts speak for themselves. At the final press conference, one of the top managers uttered a phrase that became the epitaph of an entire industry. "We didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost." And that was the bitterest truth. They did perfectly what was needed yesterday, but they categorically refused to understand what would be needed tomorrow. Today, the Nokia brand is technically alive. The company repurposed itself and builds telecommunications networks. The business is saved, but the legend is dead. Microsoft's experiment with the Lumia line failed, and the project was closed. We lost not just a brand, we lost a philosophy where the device was a friend, not the master of your attention. The story of Nokia's fall is a cruel lesson for everyone. It doesn't matter how high your walls are today. If you stop listening to the world around you, tomorrow you will be gone. Somewhere in your desk drawer, perhaps, lies an old phone from Espoo, and if you press the power button, it will work, unlike the company itself.